In today's podcast, you will meet a woman by the name of Danielle, who in the beginning only saw green flags regarding a handsome Italian professor she begins dating by the name of Luca. Unfortunately, it wouldn't take too long before the green flags turn red. And with Halloween around the corner and a couple's costume picked out for the pair, Danielle would slowly unmask the many disguises her new beau was actually wearing. And by the end of this episode, we all get a reminder on just how powerful community is, especially in uncovering truths and supporting one another in the dating world.
Welcome to Ex-Wives Undercover.
Liars, cheaters, and love cons.
I'm Amber.
And I'm Athena.
First, we told our story, and now we're sharing all of your craziest and most heart-wrenching stories of love gone wrong. Sometimes we laugh,
And sometimes we cry.
but more importantly,
We stand together.
All right, girl. You ready to do this?
let's do it.
The views, information, or opinions expressed on our show by our guests are solely the views of those individuals involved and by no means represent absolute facts. Opinions expressed by the host and guests may change at any time. Our podcast and YouTube show may at times cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to suicide, abuse, violence. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Season 6, Episode 5 of Danielle's story. From green flags to red flags.
All right, Athena, are you ready to do this?
Let's do it. All right. So, obviously came across your many posts of your story on TikTok originally. I think you mentioned you also posted a full breakdown on Instagram about a man you met on Hinge named Luca.
Yes.
So why don't you start just by walking us through your first date with him, and then we'll just kind of go from there into you starting to see inconsistencies, red flags.
Okay. So we matched on Hinge in the middle of September of last year. And there was about a 2-week, maybe 3-week lead up time before we actually went on our first date because he was traveling. And about 3 days before we had talked about going out, he kind of fell off. And I sent him a message saying, I guess meeting me is not a priority for you. Best of luck. That's kind of my go-to when guys offer concepts of a date versus an actual plan. And he responded right away. He was like, no, I'm sorry. I've just been busy. I wanted to meet you. So let's make a plan. So we made a plan to go on a date. It was, I think it was mid-October, right before, about a couple weeks before Halloween. And we had a great first date. We went to multiple locations. We were together maybe 8 hours. I was like, this guy's so funny, charming, handsome, and very future forward in conversations, which at the time I was 38. I'm looking for my life partner. And so to me, it's not really a red flag if someone's like, do you want kids? Or dating style? Are you monogamous? Those are not red flags to me on a first date. In fact, most first dates I'm going on, people are asking those questions. I'm not going on a second date with you if you don't want kids. So these are questions that he was asking that I was like, oh my God, wow. He said on the first date, these are green flags to me.
Yeah.
And then on the first date too, he was like, I like you. I want to go on a second date with you. Who doesn't want someone that's enthusiastic about that? We also, on our first date, because it was about a week before Halloween, he said, we should do something together on Halloween. We could dress up together. And I was like, wow, you're already thinking about probably 3 dates from now. This is great. I went home from that date on cloud 9 thinking, this is the best first date I've had in a long time. What a great start to things. So that was the first date.
Did he have the accent? Because he's Italian,
Oh, yeah,
right?
he's from
Okay,
Italy.
so we've got to mention that because...
So that part is real. That's
Yeah, he's really from Italy, speaks Italian. He's been in the United States 15 years.
And we have this thing about foreign men. It's very romantic. It's very I don't know. They can
most
have that
accents are
hello,
hot.
right? You're just oh,
Yeah.
okay, keep talking.
Yeah, just keep talking.
But more importantly, what you said sounds so familiar. I remember my first date with my now ex-husband. The planning in the future, it's really exciting. And then it feels so nice and normal when you're on the same page as somebody and you do get excited. You're like, this actually could go somewhere finally, especially if you've dated and you're on the app. It's just like,
Right.
then you meet somebody and you're like, wow, this is easy. Cool.
Right.
But
And it
not easy
wasn't
for
to
long.
me, it wasn't like love bomby either in
Right, right.
future. It was just
Just felt
like, yeah, we're
normal.
on the same page.
Yeah.
No problem. We want to see each other again. Like it was very normal.
Yes.
And what did he say he did for a job or a career? Like, how did he paint himself to be like a good catch? Like, I work in investment or whatever, you know, how did he paint himself as being like a really solid, good guy that you're like, okay, this maybe has potential?
Great question. So he is a tenured professor at 2 universities, which all of this is searchable. So I, of course, did my research. He is a tenured professor at one Ivy League school.
I was not
So
expecting that. I was not
No, I
expecting
wouldn't
yeah,
either.
yeah. So, and he
Check,
talked
check,
about too,
check.
like, he has really constructed his life in a way to, he works from home. His classes are all online that he teaches. He teaches MBA program courses. This is a little over my head, but, so that's like much more higher paying than someone who's teaching a
Right. Community
entry
college.
level, yeah, general English.
Yes, right.
So, and he said he had constructed his life in a way to build a family. I want to be home with my kids, he would say. So, like, I have that opportunity. I have a very flexible schedule because I'm tenured, because my classes are all online. And I'm thinking, well, that's great. Like, again, all of these things, box check.
Are you similar in age with him?
So he was 42.
Okay. It's good.
Couple years.
Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you talk about Halloween coming up. You both agreed to go to a Halloween party. So I think we're going to have to play a game throughout this whole storyline of what happened in the moment and then also
Yeah.
what was really happening in the moment. So walk us through the idea of the Halloween party and the costumes, and then we'll go
Yeah.
into what else was going on behind the scenes.
There was a little bit in between that I want to
Yeah.
fill in.
Okay. Yes.
So we went on our second date, which was like the Wednesday following. And I was the next day after that leaving for Eras Tour. So I was going to be out of town for the whole weekend. So he was like, I want to see you before you leave on your trip. And while I was on that trip, he's texting me wanting pictures of the concert, asking if I landed okay, if I got in, how the hotel was, if I'm having fun with my friends. And I'm thinking this whole time, oh my gosh, this is so great. So this is the weekend. Halloween was on a Thursday. This was the weekend right before where I was at Eras Tour. And he even said, okay, you land Sunday. Do you want to hang out Sunday? I can't wait to see you. And I was like, no, that's so I need to decompress from being at the
How
concert.
was that concert? I got to ask really quick. How was it?
It was so good. We
She's
had
really
so much
good.
fun. We had so
She's
much
so
fun.
good. Okay.
And so we ended up seeing each other the Monday after I got back, and again had a great date. We went to dinner. We went to a bar after where people were asking us how long we've been married because we had so much chemistry. And again, I'm just like, wow. And throughout that time, he was texting me about the Halloween party. He's like, I ordered my costume. And he gave me, let me back up. He gave me options, 3 options. Do you want to do gangster and flapper girl, nun and priest, or Morticia and Gomez? Which I was like, great, just give me options. I'll pick one. I was like, oh, let's do priest and nun. That seems easy. And I can order a costume, no problem. So he plans where we're going to go for Halloween. He picks some party in Midtown, says, okay, I got the tickets. We're ready to go. He plans dinner before. And I'm on cloud 9. I've always wanted to do a couple's costume. I love that he took initiative for planning this. He was very forward about it. I want to do this. Let's have fun. Halloween's important. And I'm thinking that's not a big holiday, but that's significant to, and that by then was our 4th date. So again, we had the best time. I had so much fun. We went to dinner first. We went to the party. We were talking about, more future forward type of conversations, including how we could have a nice life because we're both successful and that sort of a thing. We could live in the city. I live in New York. We could raise a family in New York because we're both so successful. And I'm like, yeah, I would love to raise kids in the city. Okay. And then he talks about on that same date how he knows American women like to have the exclusivity conversation. And I, again, was on cloud nine because I've not had a lot of men be the driving force behind these types of conversations. And he said in Italy, once you go on one date with somebody, you're exclusive. There's no conversation that needs to be had. But he knows in America, American women like to have this conversation. He said, I've had so much fun hanging out with you. I don't think it's too early for us to talk about this. We both like each other. Why don't we focus on each other and be exclusive? He put this all out there.
So strange that he goes out of his way to do these things. It's like, looking back, are you just like, why?
Yeah, but if you
He
think
didn't
about
have
it,
to at that
no, but
point.
if you think about it, he's trying to get her off his trail.
He's
So,
grooming her. He's grooming
yeah,
her.
so she's not thinking, oh, he's a cheater or he's a womanizer
No.
because he's
Yeah, that's
putting it
true.
out there like, I'm
Yeah.
a committed kind of guy and how we do
Yeah.
it from the old country.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
so
You're right.
I bet it's like him strategizing, like, if I put this out there, then she's not going to be thinking, oh, I got to keep tabs on him, see what he's doing.
No.
Damn.
Or he could have just
Some-
gone along with the fact of we're just lightly dating, we're getting to know each other. He could have gone both ways, but he went so extreme,
Right.
and because this is a playbook and it sounds like he's very, obviously now we know he's done it many times. Okay,
Yes.
sorry.
So that was Halloween. We spend the night together, hang out pretty much the next day. And so we're going to play this game. Looking back and now what we know, the weekend I was at Eras Tour, he went to 2 other Halloween parties with 2 other women who both thought they were exclusive with him at the time.
Okay.
Which, meanwhile, I mean, he's texting me, I say an appropriate amount while I'm at Eras Tour that weekend.
It's amazing.
And meanwhile, that Friday night, he had gone to a Halloween party with one girl, Saturday night with another girl. He wore the same priest costume with me and one of the other girls.
What about the third one?
She didn't tell us what they
Okay.
dressed up as. But I did think Halloween, and then we spend the night together. And he asks at my house, he asks for a bag to take the costume home. And I was like, you're going to keep it? These are from online. They're trash, right? I was like, I'm just going to throw mine away. He's like, well, you never know. I might need it again. Which now it's like, this man has probably used this priest costume many years in a row because he's facilitating the conversation about a Halloween party and knowing that women would love to do a couple's costume. And most women don't want to plan. So he's giving these 3 options of costumes he probably owns
For sure.
already,
Yeah.
which is
God.
wild to think about.
And they're,
So,
yeah,
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
everyone.
mean to interrupt.
I was just going to say, every single one of those costumes that he probably has in his little costume arsenal, they're probably all couples suited costumes.
Right.
Always. There's probably even more. Who knows?
Right. Yeah, he
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
have a few more. And then just to add a little more color, since this all has gone public, I did have a woman reach out to me who dated him about 10 years ago and was also a priest and nun with him.
It
I
just,
was
it's on
like,
repeat.
this-
They're on repeat.
So
I mean,
here's
you know
my
what? I
question,
love
though.
the recycling of the costume. We'll give him
Right.
that one.
But here's my question. Did you stalk him on social media at all to see if he's been tagged in pictures? Because I can imagine some of those people would want to tag their boyfriend because they're exclusive now, right? So does he have
Yeah.
it set to where like people can't see the pictures he's being tagged in, or were you not even privy to what his social media handles were?
So he was on Instagram, and of course I looked, and it was private. And I was like, I'm not going to go there yet. Like at that point, we'd only really been on 4 dates. And so I was like, I'm not ready to add somebody quite yet. So I wasn't really doing that much researching, but I did look, and I mean, he's very searchable. Has 2 PhDs. And so all of those works are published. So he's very searchable.
Isn't it kind of funny, though, that not putting all your personal biz out there, but in today's world, we sometimes would be more comfortable with dating, being intimate before allowing them to go into
Yeah.
see all of our images, all of our social media, access to that stuff. It's kind of interesting to think about. Like,
No, you're so right, because actually I dated a guy last year who broke up with me because he didn't like how public I was on social media. And so I'm very like finicky
Okay.
about that now.
Yes,
and, like,
that makes sense.
nervous because
Yeah.
I had one guy who was like, it gives me anxiety. I can't do it, which is
Yeah.
fine. But
Okay,
yeah,
that
you're
makes sense.
absolutely right. It's like you'd
protecting
rather
it.
sleep with somebody than be like, here's my Instagram.
Yeah, here's the last 20 years of my life, or 10,
Yeah.
or however many years. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So Halloween, we spend the night together. Again, I'm on cloud 9. And then we have another date that Sunday. Casual. I can't even remember what we did. I think we went to dinner, kind of walked around. We may have walked my dog together, got ice cream, just very like low key. It was kind of a hot couple of weeks, busy couple of weeks, but leading up to that. And then we had made plans to do something on election day. And he was going to fly back to Virginia to go vote. He is a citizen and said he was still registered in Virginia because he had just moved to New York City like 6 months before, but hadn't moved his registration. And this all made sense to me. So
Yeah, that's dedication as a voter. Impressive.
totally. And
do your thing.
so that made sense to me. He was literally going to fly down to Virginia, vote, and come back. And we were going to have dinner together and watch election coverage. And I get a voice note from him on election day saying he voted, but the house he owned in Virginia, something had happened to it. He said like a wild animal had like run through a screen and he needed to stay an extra day to get that fixed because he was in the process of trying to sell that house. And he specifically said, I know we have plans. So if it's upsetting to you that I stay, I will come back and then I'll fly back the next day. And I was like, that's insane. No girl on earth is going to be like, yes, come have dinner with me and then fly back to Virginia tomorrow. So I was like, I appreciate the communication, clear communication. You're being thoughtful. No problem. Like I would be insane to say, come back for dinner.
And he knew that.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
He's good.
He knew.
Yeah.
He
Damn,
knew.
he's good. Yeah. Okay.
So he stays in Virginia and then we have a date a couple days later. And I specifically asked him if he took pictures of the damage because the way he was describing it, I was like, I'm kind of curious, trying to be a supportive person. So he was like, no, I didn't take pictures. And I remember thinking that was a little strange. But then again, women and men are different. My phone, every 10 seconds I'm taking a picture of something.
Oh, you're right. You're right,
strange.
though. I mean, because if he did have damage for his house, homeowners insurance repairs,
Right.
They ask you nowadays, it's like you're filling stuff out online. They're like, take
Right.
images, submit it, or at some point you document it. Men or women, I think that's kind of normal. So for you to have that thought, I think is very normal that he would have had.
But again,
taken a
not
picture,
something where you're like, oh
Not
my
a
God,
deal
this man's a
breaker.
cheater. Yeah,
Right.
it was just like,
Yeah,
oh,
not
it's
flashing
weird
yellow
you didn't
lights.
take pictures.
Yeah. Okay.
So then he also tells me that he got a phone call that his mom fell off a mountain bike in Italy and he needs to fly to Italy for a few days. Says he wants to see me before he leaves, but he's got to go. He's an only child. And he said that his mom's partner also fell. Like the way he described this, they were mountain biking and like one of them fell and they were riding so close to each other that the other one fell. So
Yeah.
she had to have
I will
surgery.
say this does make sense to me because I'm not a biker, but I went biking years ago and they had these stupid clip things where you have to clip your feet into
Yes.
the pedals.
Yes.
And I fell over and there was nothing I could do. I took her down. So maybe that's what he was trying to explain. But that's the only
Right.
way that I knew that this could happen because it happened to me. Like you
Right.
can't get off the bike. Like your feet are clipped in. It's
Right.
terrible. Yeah.
So I'm like, of course, oh my God, you have to go. You're an only child. If something happened to my mom,
Yeah.
I'd be on the next flight. I get it.
Right.
So he's like, I would love to see you before I leave. So he was supposed to leave on a Sunday. We spent all of Saturday together and I'm asking him about the situation in Italy. He's from a very small town and he said it's not like here where you can call, a home health nurse to come and help. It's like you have to go there and you have to sort of find not somebody in the street that can help, but you kind of have to work the network in this small town. And I don't know if you guys have seen on Instagram all these homes in Italy that are for sale in these tiny towns for like $5, literally.
Dude, I've been looking into it. I went online after I watched the Netflix show and I was like, what? €1 home?
Please.
€1 home?
Right. So this is the
I'm down.
sort of like town that I'm picturing. So all in my head, this is all
Me too.
making sense. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you're from a very, very small town. Don't go take care of what you need to take care of. And he at first said that he was going to be gone for a few days. And I was like, a few days? Like, I live in New York City. I'm from California. And if I had to fly home for an emergency, I would make sure I'm there a week because It's just, that's too
It
much
doesn't, the jet lag.
that doesn't
I've
make
been to
any sense.
Italy. I've been there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know I'm Washington State, but you can't just bounce back and forth that
No,
easily, that
it's tough.
quickly.
It's
Yeah,
It's tough.
expensive, it's time consuming.
Yeah.
it's
No,
I
not
thought that
exhausting.
was
to be there a
weird.
week. And you don't
Yeah,
know
Yeah.
their circumstances. How badly hurt are they? So you have no
Right.
idea. Just it's not
true.
like, let me just cross the pond. Everything good? Okay, heading back.
Right.
And if he lives in
Yeah.
like a weird little village, it's like planes, trains, and automobiles, I'm sure,
Right.
to get
Right.
there.
Yeah. He had to fly to Venice and then a 2.5 hour drive.
Yes.
So we have our date before he leaves, and he leaves the next day, supposedly. And I'm getting text messages from him every step of the way. I made it to Paris for my layover. I made it to Venice. Like, and the timing that he had described that it took to get to each location worked with the texts he was sending me. I believed he was in Italy. At this point, no red flags.
Right.
And he's texting me every day saying he's tired from the jet lag. His mom's doing okay. She had her surgery. The partner is pretty badly bruised. And I'm like, okay, okay, okay. And then we have a couple phone calls, never FaceTimes though, only phone calls. And I asked if we could FaceTime, and he said the Wi-Fi was spotty in the house. And because it's a small town, the connection with the cell phone provider wasn't going to work. And I bought it to, again, I'm picturing a lonely house on a hill for sale for $5 with nothing around,
Where in Italy? Do you know, like, what area of Italy
Yeah,
is it?
Cortina. So northern Italy. So 2 hours
Northern.
north
Okay.
of
Okay.
Venice, which I actually
Yes.
researched, come to
Yeah.
find out it's almost like the Aspen of Italy. So there's no way
Oh,
there's,
no.
there's like
Did
Rodeo
you
Drive.
Oh my God, did you
Yeah.
research it back then and be like, "Well, that's not adding up,"
No,
or did you leave
no.
it at face value?
I
Like,
was just
you told
like,
me, yeah.
I'm going to believe what he's saying.
No,
I
I
know.
would have too. I would have absolutely. But it's amazing
Yeah.
that it's like the asp. Like, did he not
So
mention
you're not,
that eventually you're going to Google this?
yeah, like, I mean, don't tell me the Wi-Fi's bad. They're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a week goes by and I'm feeling like it's great communication, even despite the fact that we're on different time zones. Sometimes he's texting me at weird times and he's like, I can't sleep. And so he's painting this beautiful story that he's in Italy. Then about 2 weeks go by, and my birthday's coming up, and he says, I'm going to try to come back for your birthday. And then my birthday comes and goes. He doesn't come back, but he makes sure to call me on my birthday, sends me a beautiful bouquet of flowers on my birthday. And I'm like, this is great. Like, wow, he still was thoughtful. I mean, he didn't just get like the basic flowers you get from 1-800-Flowers. I mean, it had like the works. And I was like, okay. Then about a week after my birthday, this girl I know calls me and she's like, I got to tell you something. She was like, another friend that I had met a few times, he had messaged this other girl on a dating app. And I was like, send me the screenshots. So they send me the screenshots, and then I confront him, and he says he was hacked. Now, I know this is, I think, obviously the biggest red flag. And I don't think I necessarily believed he was hacked, but I thought, okay, he's in Italy. Maybe he needed a little attention late at night and just was swiping. I kind of painted this whole story for myself that it wasn't that big of a deal either.
Yeah.
I also thought it's early enough in our relationship. How we recover from this is going to be really telling. So I confront him about it. He says he was hacked. I said, well, I have a lot to think about. I want to process this. I said, but we need to have a FaceTime. Because at this point, it had been like 3 weeks that he was in Italy and we hadn't FaceTime once. And I said, so you need to find a spot in your mom's apartment or house where the Wi-Fi is perfect because we need to have a FaceTime. So the next day, he's like telling me he's so anxious, he's upset, he would never want to hurt me. It doesn't make sense that it would be him actually sending the messages, because why would he send messages to girls when he's in Italy? And I'm like, that's also true. And so we have our FaceTime and he's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't want to hurt you. Really like selling his amends and this story that he was hacked. And I just thought, well, He's in Italy, whatever. I just thought if this is something we can recover from, it'll be a good story. And I had friends who had had similar things happen early on in their relationships, and they've been together 10, 15 years. And so I was kind of like,
Yeah.
I mean, look at Hillary Clinton, okay? I was like, you just, these
No,
things,
it happens. It happened to me.
they,
I found out before I moved to be with our mutual ex-husband that he was on Match.com literally days before the moving ban came. And I was like, I'm so embarrassed. Oh, I'm sorry. My dog's barking. I'm so embarrassed. And, he's crying. He's doing the thing. I'm going to have to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's never, broke my trust before that. So it happens. It does.
it does. I mean, and I will say, there was a thought that crossed my mind that maybe he wasn't in Italy when this all happened. But I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to be antagonistic either. I wanted to just be like, okay, I want to be calm, cool, collected while we talk about this. I feel like I have the upper hand. And from that point forward, like the communication was already, I thought, on really good ground.
Yeah.
But he 10x'd it, like constant, constant, constant. And then a week later, he was like, I can come back. I found people to take care of my mom. He's like, I can't wait to see you. This is like where things kind of got funny too, is he was like, I'm flying back on Air France on this day, and I'm looking at flights. Any of my friends could be like, I'm flying on this trip. I'm so nosy. I'm going to look up everybody's flight. And I'm looking up the flights and I can't find the exact flight he mentioned, but then I'm kind of gaslighting myself. Like maybe I heard it wrong or who knows. And he's like, I'm going to come back Monday. I want to see you that night. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you're coming back from an international trip. You've been gone for a month at this point and you want to make a point to see me. Great. So he calls me on Monday after he lands. He's like, I just got in. I'm going to take a nap. Let's go to dinner. He picks a restaurant in Midtown Manhattan, which this little attention to detail, this is where I'm like, this man is such a master manipulator. He was like, the Google reviews said it has a lot of celebrity sightings, which I love. And I was like, oh, that's so thoughtful. And let me just tell you, nobody famous was there because I know everyone will ask that. But so we have dinner and we get drinks after. And I'm just like, wow, this is all like picking back up where it is. Like everything's great. So then he tells me at drinks, he now has to go to Virginia the next day. And I was actually a little mad because I was like, well, you should have told me. Maybe I could have gone with you. He was selling his house in Virginia, so he had to sign the paperwork for that. The next day, he flies to Virginia, and he's sending me non-stop updates. My flight landed. I signed the paperwork. He's sending me pictures of like the last couple things he had to move out of his house. He's sending me pictures of, and they're all geotagged and everything. And I'm like, okay, great. So he's in Virginia for 3 days. He has a car in Virginia he goes to pick up. He calls me Thursday on his way back, drops off the car, comes straight to me. We go to dinner. And I'm like, okay, things are picking right back up where we left off. One thing to note too, I should mention, I did ask him if he took any pictures in Italy and he said no. And I thought that was a little strange. Again, like, I know you're taking care of your mom, supposedly, but not to say you want to be like taking selfies with your mom while she's healing, but it just is a little strange.
I mean, did you not see an old friend maybe? Haven't seen you for a while. Let's take a picture. I mean, right? Or
Like you're
anything.
gone for a month, you take 0 pictures. 0.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. That's kind of weird.
And I remember you talking about during your, excuse me. I remember you talking about during your FaceTime with him and he's in the kitchen and you're like looking at the kitchen cabinets and
Yeah.
you're like, these look real modern
Mhm.
and very, very American style compared to
Not the $5 Italian
yeah.
villa.
Well, yeah, the idea of Italian, that would be probably real rusticy wood or
Yeah.
what. I mean, not to say that they don't have modern living situations, but the way he's described how, he's getting to this small town, village, whatever, that didn't add up. So that was a little bit of
Right.
your first big or second, maybe big red flag.
Yeah, the cabinets that were standing behind him, I was like, I have those exact same cabinets in my house that I own. And I thought, interesting that they're the same. And he he was frozen in like one spot. He would not like get comfortable. And he was like, the Wi-Fi just works here. And I was like, interesting. I was like, well, what's your mom doing? What's she up to? And he's like, she's taking a nap. I'm like, okay. So
I was gonna say
go
one
ahead.
thing that we've noticed with the stories that we've done is that the more detailed they are, like I'm at the gym, it's like they're trying to give this impression like I'm over communicating and so transparent with you. That's usually the red flag because usually they got something else going on. Wouldn't you think that,
Right.
Athena? Like it seems
I
like they
do.
all because our guy used to be like, I'm at the gym, picture on the treadmill, I'm here, I'm stuck in traffic, picture. It's just like he's trying to make you have this sense of like, I'm trustworthy.
Trust.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and come to find out, one of the other girls that I overlapped with, she connected with him over summer when he was actually in Italy. And he FaceTimed her and gave her a whole tour of the house he grew up in via FaceTime. So the FaceTime thing is not accurate. The man could
Yeah.
FaceTime had he been in Italy.
Yes.
So he comes back from Virginia and we were seeing each other and going on dates. And then he tells me that one of the aides he hired for his mom quit and she needed two. And so one quit. And so he's freaking out, doesn't know what he's going to do. And he cancels a date with me because he's like, I have too much anxiety. I'm like, okay, again, like, what am I going to say? No, you need to have this date with me. Like, oh, you need some time alone, no problem. And then he gets sick and we had a date. He gets sick. And so he's sending pictures of like the thermometer that he has a fever. I'm like, oh, do you want me to bring you anything? Nope, 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 nope. We had plans to go see a Broadway show. I bought those tickets and he's like, I'm not going to go. I'm too sick. And I was, again, like, okay, I'm now out 100 and something dollars, but what are you going to say when somebody's telling you they're sick?
Right.
So then now we're at the week before Christmas. And this is when he's sick and he's telling me he's also freaking out because his mom needs the extra help. And then he tells me she fell trying to go down the stairs of her apartment. She's in a boot. And I said, well, where was she going? Like, what? I'm trying to like get more information to understand the whole situation. And he says she fell going down. She was trying to go get groceries. And I'm like, isn't there somebody you could hire to bring her groceries? Also, if you have one aide, why isn't that one aide doing enough grocery shopping for the week? And he's telling me that's not how it works in Italy. He said she needs fresh groceries every day. I said, the woman can't eat a day old croissant. Like, get over it. Like, honestly, I mean, and again, like I'm talking to my sister about this. My grandparents are Italian. And when one of them was sick and dying, he was the most stubborn human being on earth. And so my sister's like, think about when we went through, show some empathy for Luca. And I'm like, I get it. My sister's like, we had our whole family helping. It's just Luca and he's half a world away. So, everybody in my life is like, Danielle, just see it through, like show some empathy, like and I'm like getting frustrated. But at the same time, I don't want to be not understanding. So then he tells me when she falls, he needs to go back to Italy. And at this point, this was the Saturday before Christmas. I had no Christmas plans because my plans were to be with him. And so I couldn't make plans at that point to fly anywhere or to be with family. And he's like, I have to go to Italy. And he tells me, you should date other people and not wait for me while I'm gone. And I flipped out because I was like, you've already like put me through hell because of this. I am now, it's like the sunk cost fallacy. I'm like, I'm so in. And I was like, if this is how it's going to be, we can get through it. I said, when you went before, we didn't have a plan to stay connected. Now we can come up with a plan where we're using this time apart to really like build our communication and build on each other. He's like, you're right, you're right, you're right. And I said, we can't just break up every time things get hard. He's like, you're right. So he's like, let's come up with a plan to stay connected while I'm gone. And I'm like, okay, great. So we exchanged Christmas presents and he's like, I'm so sorry to leave you on Christmas. And I was pissed because again, at that point now I was going to be spending Christmas alone. And we get to Christmas. He doesn't call. He just sends a text saying like, Merry Christmas. Did you end up doing anything? Like very like low effort. And I'm thinking, dude, you abandoned me on Christmas. No, like I was so mad. But again, still trying to temper my own feelings towards everything because I'm trying to be understanding and not be an asshole with you're going through something difficult. And he's telling me like he's not sleeping. We're texting constantly. He's texting me at all weird hours. He's so overwhelmed with what's going on. And then there's a new part of the story that the mom's partner can't take care of her because now he needs knee replacement surgery. I guess like his original knee replacement surgery didn't heal, so he's got to have it redone. So there's this added layer to everything. So a couple, maybe like so New Year's is right after Christmas. I'm out of town for New Year's and I'm in Mexico and we're texting the whole time. He's like, how are things going? Like, how's the trip? I'm sending pictures. And then I get back from Mexico. And at that point, our communication had really dwindled. And I was trying to pick it back up to where it was before, because I'm thinking, okay, I was on a trip. He's out of town. Like, let's get back to where we were. And he's going like 2 days without texting me. And I called him out and said, I think it's important for us to try to maintain this communication. We haven't FaceTimed. We've barely spoken on the phone. And he sends me this long text message back. You're right. I'm so sorry. And I said, look, why don't I come visit? Let's just reignite things. I have the flexibility. And he kept pushing off this visit. And finally I said, okay, well, I'm going to come on January 12th. Here's the flight I'm looking at. And I think he at this point had run out of runway with his lies. So he sends me another long text message saying that his mom went to the doctor and she has something called delayed union, which is delayed bone healing. And now he needs to stay in Italy indefinitely, and we need to break up and not to wait for him. And of course I'm like freaking out. I'm like, I'm committed. I'm like telling you, I'm willing to even come visit you and like be with you to like try and sustain this. Like, I have a very flexible job. I can come once a month if you're going to be there for 4 months. Like, it's not the end of the world for me to come to Italy. And he's like, no. And let's just break up. And then I don't hear from him. I like try calling him, doesn't pick up. 3 days later, I get a text from him. And this was during the wildfires in LA. And he's like, number one, how are you? How's your family? Because I'm from Southern California. And he said, did you post me on social media? And I'm like, I haven't heard from you in 4 days after you sent me a breakup text. And you're asking if I posted you on social media. So obviously, like, red flags went up. Yeah. And I'm like insulted actually, because I don't just post anybody on social media. And I said, why are you asking that? He goes, well, I would just feel betrayed if somebody posted me without asking. And I was like, oh,
red flag.
So yeah. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, how are you feeling? I was like, oh, I've been crying all week. He's like, me too. I'm just heartbroken that I can't be the person you need. And I'm like, huh, okay. But like, when you broke up with me and I tried calling you 3 times, you didn't pick up. All weird. So there's something in me that's like, I need to start checking the Are We Dating groups. And I had checked them previously in New York and in Charlottesville, where he's from, and nothing had come up. The Are We Dating groups have an app now. And so I was on the app and I search him, and there he is with like 20 comments. And I'm like, oh my God, like dig in. And they're all recent comments. Some girl had posted him saying that they had matched on an app recently and they were going to go out. And then 3 other women commented saying, I've been dating him exclusively for the past 4 months.
Okay, so really quick, Danielle, I'm going to stop you because I never knew about there being a dating app now. So I want to get an audio clip of you giving us the background on that, because I know there were the Facebook groups and then that all went to like arbitration, blah, blah, blah. Are they allowed to be on Facebook still? And, or is it just the app that exists? Could you give us the background so other women know how to do that?
So Are We Dating the Same Guy Facebook groups do exist. And I think because there was so much scandal behind those groups, they developed an app alongside of it to give women that option should the groups be shut down. And so I looked in the Facebook groups and I saw nothing. And this was somebody had posted in the app. So that's where I discovered, and I commented saying, wait, I've also been dating him exclusively for the past 4 months. So we all start chatting. One girl wants to remain anonymous. I turned the anonymous thing off because I'm like, I don't care. Like, no big deal. And so
You're
I'm
like, bring it.
bring it.
Let's
So
talk.
I'm like, if somebody wants to chat off this app, like, feel free to message me on Facebook. So me and another girl start putting our timelines together. She was one of the other ones that dressed up as a priest and nun the weekend before I did. And we compared the breakup texts that we both got. They were the same. He had given her the same Italy story. Meanwhile, one of the other girls said she had spent New Year's with him, so we know he wasn't in Italy. And, you know, just putting the timelines together, we figured out he was never in Italy. And I have a friend that works for a district attorney and did a little extra research for me and checked his passports, I should say. The man has not been out of the country since last September or August. So he never went to Italy, which in my opinion is so freaking ballsy. Like, New York City, there's a lot of people that live here, but it's not a big area. Like, I could have run into him at any point. But also, he was asking me like what I was up to today or that day, probably trying to get a feel
Very
for
calculated.
what I was doing to avoid me. And maybe the same with the other girls.
So,
My
question
God.
for you about the third one. When did he meet the one that is remaining anonymous? Because he started with girl number one. I feel like you were the number two, possibly. And then now we've got this third one. Did it start in that order? Did he meet the first one before you or at the same time as you?
Okay, so I
How did
have
it
now
go?
been in contact with 5 girls that overlap, including myself.
How do they have as much time?
I know. One was over summer
Okay.
before he and I matched. So it was like leading into early September.
Okay.
And he had asked her to come on this big trip with him, and she said no. And they had gone away with each other the week that he and I started chatting on the apps. And at that point, she thought he was her boyfriend. And then 2 of the other girls started in September actually dating him. And then I started in October. And then there was another one that started in December.
Okay.
So
That's
it's
the one
like,
who wants to be anonymous is the one who was with them on New Year's Eve.
so 2 of the girls, I guess, want to be anonymous and haven't, yeah. And so some of them lasted longer. And it's kind of hard. I don't know how he kept track. I'm like a little confused even talking about it.
That's why they're all similar. Copy, paste, copy, paste.
Oh, and this is the other thing.
Yeah.
The girls who have not remained anonymous, all successful, kind of all look the same. Oh, very copy, paste, copy, paste. And so the girl that I have been speaking with the most, she and I, like, we've compared text messages, timelines, and he kind of gave her the same timeline as me with this whole Italy story and with his mom. So, like, he was keeping that story straight while dating other women at the same time.
Right.
And, like, since I have gone public with this, I've had women in LA, Michigan, Charlottesville, all over the country reach out to me saying that they have dated him and or been cheated on by him in very similar stories. One of the girls he dated over summer, he had to go to Italy to help his mom. So she and I actually got drinks. We took a selfie and said, best wishes to your mom, and sent it to him.
Wait, so can I back up? So after when you first initially saw him on the Are We Dating the Same Guy page, did you blow his shit up and like, what the fuck? And then
Yeah.
what did he say? And then when did you feel like I'm just going to blast it on my social media accounts and tell the
Yeah,
world?
so right away I saw him on the Are We Dating the Same Guy? And I had also realized, okay, I need to tell him his shit is over. It made sense to me now why he had asked if I had posted him on social media, because one of the other girls broke up with him in light of this Are We Dating the Same Guy post. And I sent him about 10 voice memos, like pretty upset, obviously. And I said, you better wish that I don't wake up one day and want to ruin your life, because I will. And because I have no shame, I have no issues with putting your face absolutely everywhere and letting women everywhere know what kind of scumbag you are. It was like voice memo, boom, 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 boom. Well, it didn't take long for me to make that decision. It took like the next day. I was like, I'm going public with this. And I mean, I had blocked him on everything, including Poshmark. Like, I went everywhere to block him. And then I started going viral with it, and people were commenting to look on the T app, which is another app for women to post a picture of the man they're dating to get the tea on him. And there were tons of women coming out from over the years saying that they had had similar interactions with him. And since it all went viral, I've had girls message me saying, like, thank God I saw your posts because I've been talking to him on the apps. I have a date scheduled with him Friday. I'm going to cancel it now. Something to that effect. And one girl recently on, I can't remember which of the apps, she said that she had been on a few dates with him. Same story. He asked her to be exclusive right away. And she said, I would have kept dating him. Like, there's no red flags if I hadn't seen all these posts. So he knows this is happening. There's a post of him on the Instagram for one of the schools he teaches at. And they had to turn off commenting because so many people were going there, commenting, calling him a cheater.
That's amazing.
And I was just like, imagine having to explain this to your school, that your job.
Yeah, exactly. He's this person in this authoritative position teaching our youth and, I mean, I guess adults, whatever, but still. And that's the kind of person he is. A liar, a cheater, a fraud. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, after reading everything, have you read up on borderline personality disorder? Because when Amber and I had to deal with exactly what you did, but in a more involved level, being married, having children with our con man, we looked into the mental health stuff. Amber especially was going to the doctor appointments with him at the beginning and when he was diagnosed, and we were not familiar until then. Then after that, we really deep dived into like cluster B personality disorders.
Yeah.
But this guy, he just ticks the box on borderline personality disorder. They cannot be alone. They sabotage everything. They have a backup to the backup for the next person. And it's so sad because they have so much to give and they're very intelligent and they could have a great life, but they just implode every relationship and they repeat the pattern. And it's really sad to watch and horrible all at the same time. But I was curious if there was one pattern that he also had. Did you ever notice as you got to know the other women, did he morph into what they were more into, like on their dates, or did he really seem like he had that same personality? His interests, his hobbies, your date styles, were they all identical or some different?
Yeah, we did kind of talk about that, like where we were going on dates. And I mean, look, we live in New York City. There's like 4 things you're going to do: go to museums, go out to eat, and go to drink, and like maybe see a show or something. So it's not like there was a lot of variety in the dates. 2 of the girls he did take to the Hamptons or Long Island, somewhere out there, like back-to-back weekends in the summer, like kind of crazy. And I think he generally maintained the same sort of persona, but really it was like you're just taking girls out to dinners over and over and over and over again. So it's not really morphing into their personalities as much.
Okay. So he didn't try to be what they thought he wanted him to be. He just stuck to it. It was working and he continued with each storyline. Our ex, the same thing. He was like on a trip with Amber. Did you go to Hawaii with him too? Or was it just, it was you? And then the next weekend or a couple weekends after, it was him.
Went to the same concert, literally at the same time.
Yeah. It was just like same repeat places, repeat things. But he did morph into, not 100%.
Like he would smoke with some people.
Yeah,
and others he was like Mr. Gym Fitness. And then sometimes he'd be like, I'm into concerts. And then with me, he told me he was like, I'm an outdoor enthusiast. I love hiking. And he does not like none of that stuff. So I'm curious if your guy was remorseful at all, or did he throw anyone under the bus? Like, you're psycho. She got her wires crossed. We were never exclusive. Like, did he throw you or any of the other women under the bus, or did he say, I'm so sorry? I don't know. I'm just curious. How did he play that?
So in the breakup text he sent me, he did say, like, for all my faults, I hope you can forgive me. And he said that to one of the other girls. And the thing that is like so toxic, I mean, all of it's toxic, but the girl that recently reached out that said that she's recently started dating him and would have continued to date him had she not stumbled across all of this content. She said that she asked him if he had ever cheated on anybody, just like happened. She didn't ask him after finding all this information, normal conversation, early dating. And he did admit that he had dated or cheated on 2 women, but he had learned from his mistakes, which I take that to mean he knows all this content is out there about him, and it's his way of trying to get in front of this story as like, these are scorned women.
Yes.
I did cheat on them. They took their outrage too far, and I've learned from my mistakes. Like, he's trying to get ahead of it, knowing that if you Google him, my videos will come up.
Love it.
Which is
like
wild.
that, I'm a new, better version of
Oh,
myself.
for
Right.
sure.
I'm a
Yeah.
whole new man. Yeah,
Right. And
that's
she's
good
a
one.
woman scorned, I'm sure, is what
Yes.
he's saying to people.
100%.
Tell us about the trolls, because that is a part of sharing stories, and we did the same thing. We were kind of like, "Oh, shit, we're just gonna tell our story," and we didn't think it all the way through, and then
Yeah.
as you know, we don't get as many as we did before, but we still get them like, "You deserved whatever you got." TikTok's a horrible place.
Yeah.
That when we went viral there is when it was just some of the things the men would say, they
Yeah.
really did not like that we were calling him out. But did you get any
Definitely.
women backlash too? Or like what?
There were a few, but I mean, I've gone viral for a few stories at this point, and it really is, I think, these men that are, I call them basement dwellers, who probably have never seen a real boob in person, you know?
Yeah.
They've never touched a boob in their life. And so what they're going to do instead is sit on their keyboards and hate on women who are out here trying to find their partner. You know, I think
you
they just hate.
all day on Reddit. That's what I
Yeah,
say.
they're all going to be on Reddit. They're going to be on TikTok. So the one of the videos is where I asked TikTok if I should exploit him. And that one I think is like at 600,000 views. And I'm still getting comments from people that are like, you're just sorry that he broke up with you. You're
Yeah.
just sorry that he's not the
Move
one,
on.
you know, that he wanted. You're just mad he didn't marry you. And I'm like, did you miss the part where I said he had 2 other girlfriends while dating me? That's where are you lapsing in judgment on this man? Because he's awful. Yeah.
Until they've walked in your shoes or been through something like that, it's
Right.
they're just lucky enough to be that naive, I suppose. I could spin it that way, but
Totally.
it just doesn't make sense to them. And so their view on it is so warped.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not a scorned woman who's talking shit. He's done this for the last 10 years at least. And you've got other women's back. Like, you're there to help protect the next women, prevent them from going through the heartbreak, the pain, the confusion, all of it that you had to go through.
Right. And I mean, it is just wild, like all the women that have reached out, even people. There was one woman, I don't want to give away too much of her background, but she had worked with him at one of the schools, and she messaged me and was like, I hope he gets fired for all of this being exposed. She goes, I can't even imagine the amount of women he's hurt. Somebody else said that he broke up marriages. He didn't even do a lot of the research for his papers that you have to do to get your PhD. He said he would use women to do it for him. Who knows if any of that is true?
Probably
but I'm
is.
like, the stuff that came out and what women were willing to share with me anonymously
Yes.
was wild. And I mean,
Do you know if he was ever married or in any long-term relationships ever?
he told me he was in some long-term relationships. He said he was in a 5-year relationship with a woman who they broke up because he didn't find her sexually attractive, because his specific words, she healed a mother wound for him. I mean, and he said he's been through so much therapy. He feels so bad that, he couldn't.
He's using keywords.
Very keywords.
I'm so emotionally intelligent. Look at me just recognizing that was a mother wound. Like, oh my God, that's so manipulative.
Right. And I'm listening to it like,
yeah.
wow, like, okay. And, I've had friends in similar types of relationships where, they just aren't compatible. And like, I'm just like, this is a real thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. Living in New York, is this normal dating in New York? Because like I always hear, I'm never lived. I've visited twice, but I don't know. Sex in the City, right? Like you hear about like, is this like a normal dating thing that
I
happens in
hope
New York?
not.
Or
I
is
hope
this like a
not.
total one-off? Like how? I mean, are you just scorned? Like I never want to date again, or
No,
like
no.
maybe he's giving New York dating a bad name too.
Well, I hope it's not normal New York dating. This is the first time I've ever experienced anything like this. And I got right back out there. I've already been on some dates this year. So I'm good. I'm not afraid to get out there and go dating. I still do believe my person is out there. I do believe in love. I don't think everyone's like this. Somebody commented on one of my videos, and I thought this was so beautiful, really defending women when this sort of thing happens to them. She said, when we hear hooves running, we look for horses, not zebras. And I thought that was such a poetic way of saying, like, we are looking for the best in people. And when people show up and they show you somebody who's kind and generous and thoughtful, you're not looking for this other side of them. Why would you? Most people don't default thinking, I'm looking for this monster.
That would be toxic, actually. That would be
like
tough
this
way to
all
live.
makes sense. And like the story is sold so well. And that's just going to happen sometimes, unfortunately.
So, last question for you. If you could give a bit of advice to anybody who may possibly come into contact with this man or somebody like this man, somebody like Luca, what advice would you give to them or anybody entering the dating platform? I don't know if there's things that you know to do or look up online or you're tech savvy to give advice on, anything in that falls in that realm. Okay.
I would definitely check the Are We Dating the Same Guy Facebook groups. I would check the T app. I would check the Are We Dating the Same Guy app. And what I've learned, and this is not really a tech thing, maybe take it a little bit slower. Even if someone is being very future forward with you, you don't need to say like, yeah, let's be exclusive right away. You get to be in control of how you want the relationship to progress. And if that risks losing someone, that needs to be okay. You get to decide, you have agency for how you want the relationship to facilitate. And I think that needs to be what I think women take away from is you get to decide. It's up to you.
Yeah. And it's such a strong and powerful place to be the one that you're still in control. Like they don't get to make all the decisions just with those simple basic things that you just said. Like I always say the beginning of a relationship and just dating is so special and unique. And you lose it if you rush too quickly.
Yeah,
so just
you're right.
stay in it and like soak it up and enjoy it and don't worry about them being other because you're just figuring out the little, itty bitty details. In a few weeks, look what happens at the end of 2 months for you, what you found out. I mean, you just really don't know somebody. So take those few months, just enjoy every little bit of it. And it's hard. It's easier said than done, right?
Yeah,
but
totally.
I think you're spot on with that. And then you feel more in control when you do get to that 6 to 8 week period to make a strong, better decision and not be completely broken over something. Cause that's rough. You question yourself, I'm sure, like, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I see this more? But I always say, almost on every episode, you can never prepare yourself to meet a person like that. Nobody teaches you how to spot those things. And I love that woman had posted that about the horses and zebras. It's 100% accurate. So, well, any last words? Sorry. Oh, go ahead, Amber.
It's like, I feel like we need to invent some kind of like, mom, can you? Sorry. She's like, I love you,
I got
puppy.
thoughts.
My dog, she's like, you're the best puppy. I'm like, mom.
I couldn't hear her.
You couldn't?
Hi, Jeannie.
She said hi, I think. My dog's being weird, so I was gonna give this brilliant words of thought, and all I can hear is, I love you, Boogie. You're so sweet. Anyways, I almost lost my train of thought. I used to talk about this app, so I feel like when you're in the middle of these things, it's hard to separate your brain side versus your heart side. And so when I would go on this app, it was like a daily diary where I could write down everything. And when you reflect back on it and see it on paper, it almost like takes the feelings out because you're just like, ooh, I saw a red flag that day. I saw like, ooh, that doesn't look very good. It just kind of separates them a little bit. So I was like, I feel like we need to invent some kind of diary, red flag notebook, like after every date or every time you're with someone, write it down. Pros and cons, things that are jumping out. Like even when you're like, that's weird about the background in the FaceTime video, like you can kind of see it and you can like reflect on it and try to separate the two. It's easier said than done, but maybe one day.
Well, I will say I forgot about this little tool, but I use ChatGPT for that sort of thing quite a bit. I have like a whole thread on ChatGPT. Named it therapy, and I'm constantly like after dates, like debriefing with ChatGPT and getting ChatGPT's feedback. It also can consolidate my thoughts and spit it back out to me when I'm asking for a review of this person.
That's definitely amazing. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. I mean, I just went out on a date last week with a guy and I was like, I'm not sure. And I'm like debriefing about it with ChatGPT, and it's like spitting back out ideas and things to think differently about and whether or not I should pursue this guy or not. All free.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to have to put that in the show notes, right? Like
Sure.
New
And
I'm
Athena
a
got
thing.
me
big
onto that.
It's such
ChatGPT.
a new thing that like,
Yeah, Amber got
oh,
me onto that. I
me
still am trying
too.
to figure it out. Like, all I know so far, I'm like, am I on the right one? Because it's kind of a basic platform. It
Yeah.
kind, but do you just in the box originally say, I would like your feedback or your takeaway from this, and then you enter
Yeah.
the text you did? Is that what you
Just
do?
ask a
Yeah. I
question
voice
and then
memo
yeah.
into it. And so I'm just
Okay.
like, rambling on.
And it pulls everything from like the internet and different psychologists that have that's really good idea.
Okay. I can't wait to get off, and I'm going to do that next.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Girls, go play with ChatGPT and
Okay.
just like the feedback it gives you where it's like, oh, do you want to go on another date with this guy when he did XYZ? Like it just takes what you said and sometimes spits it back out in a different thought process.
Yes.
Where
So
you're like, oh, I
smart.
didn't even think about that.
Yes. I love that.
That's
Okay.
good. All right.
This is juicy.
That's a
Okay.
good
Well,
tip to end on.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for
Thanks
sharing.
Thanks for
Good.
having me. This was
That
so
was
fun.
Gosh. Until next time.
Can't get enough of Ex-Wives Undercover? If so, make sure to subscribe to our show so that you don't miss any of our exclusive subscriber-only podcast episodes. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok, as well as join our true crime community on our private Facebook page. And for those who rather watch the episodes, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. For more information, simply click the link found in each episode's show notes.